This is what the narrative was against Assad in Syria. He has chemical weapons. He's using it against his own people.
President Trump is talking peace. He is all.
Iran having nuclear weapons was not enough. Now a new narrative is dropped. They have chemical weapons. This is what the narrative was against Assad in Syria. He has chemical weapons. He's using it against his own people. We have to get rid of the guy. So apparently this is coming out because Donald Trump keeps saying that Iran can't have a nuke. They've destroyed their capability of having a nuke. So that should be, done with. But no, Netanyahu says they have chemical weapons.
There's always the talk about the nuclear weapons. The thing that always frightens me and that nobody ever talks about, maybe this doesn't involve Iran or not, but it's biological and chemical weapons. Does Iran have biological and chemical weapons in their supply?
They definitely have chemical weapons. That I can tell you, and that is another danger that they pose.
What do you have chemical weapons?
Chemical weapons were used on Iran during the Iraq-Iran War. Chemical weapons that the United States gave to Iraq, and Iran refused to use chemical weapons back on Iraq. It was against their fatwa. Again, no weapons of mass destruction. They view chemical weapons as weapons of mass destruction alongside nuclear weapons. So Netanyahu, they were saying, yes, they have chemical weapons. You know that Greta was told to ask that question so that he could put it out there that, yep, they have chemical weapons. Iran now has chemical weapons, something that they have never shown to have. But suddenly we're just making stuff up at this point. Well, we've been making it up this whole time, not just at this point.
That's what Benji does. He makes things up.
Israel has been dropping white phosphorus on Lebanon. So you want to talk about who are the bad guys here, right? They're trying to paint it's Iran. They're the bad guys. They do all the bad things. And I'm not saying Iran's the good guys. Maybe they are the bad guys. Maybe they are doing tons of bad things. I'm sure they are. I think most big governments do. And I don't really trust any government. I don't trust any group that's in power.
Let's not go that far. I trust the government of Canada to take a long time doing anything. All right, I probably am not going to do a lot of what I usually do because it's 6:30 or 6:20 already, and I've been working, and I have some information to process that I'm not sure how I'm going to process. I think it's all good. I just think it might look, what I know are markets. Maybe that's what I know. What I know is how people react. Maybe that's what I know. And I know what people do when you introduce them to others. I know that. But anyway, we're at 22,848,000 Railtown. 22,848,000 Railtown. Let me put that a different way. We're about 150,000 shares away from 23 million. Now, I guess in general, I'm just trying to think what I want to say. One thing I want to say is there's going to be no peace in the Middle East when Donald Trump calls Iranians scum. And there's just, now I'm reading headlines. Maybe he talked about certain people in the government, but we're not going to peace. Also, he's sitting with that other liar, Zelensky. Germany's ramping up for war with Russia. All this comes either because Hillary Clinton lost an election and she turned it into Russia, 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 or it comes because it doesn't matter who you vote for in the United States, you end up with John McCain. Doesn't matter who you vote for. Donald Trump is, I don't see any difference in Donald Trump's approach to Russia, Ukraine, Iran than Hillary Clinton or John McCain or George W. Bush. It's just very disappointing to me. But anyway, we don't have to get into politics, but what I have to warn you is this is not good for your future. This is not good for your future. So what are we trying to do here with Railtown? I'm looking at the news story that came out for Railtown, and I'm digesting what it implies. And based solely on what it describes, that's not a very exciting path to scale, in my opinion. It's just not very exciting. But we'll go through it. Now, having said that, I think what it might mean, and this is what I have to think about for a while, probably overnight, a couple of days, talk to people. It might mean, here's the dynamic I'm worried about. We're in July. If you're wealthy or if you're an overpaid wanker like, these Wall Street elites are, you're going to take August off. It's just how it's going to go. So I'm concerned, my friends, but I'm not ready to state it yet because I got to think it through. I'm concerned that Railtown is going to be a third quarter story. That's what's bugging me. Because this news ain't cutting it. It's not bad news. It's great news in many, many respects. It's great news. And we'll go through the good. But I also think it just makes me nervous, like I just said. They got 3 weeks in July. Nobody is going to be working in August. Nobody. So it just gives me big pause on my sense of urgency for the summer. Now, is the stock price going to go down? No, I don't think so. Is it going to go up significantly? Yes, I think it's going to go up significantly. But is it going to go over 10, 15, 20x before September? I don't know. I don't know. So where do I start? I personally am frightened by the fact that the United States looks destined to go to war against Russia. Just because nuclear bombs have never been dropped in the United States doesn't mean they're not about to be. Number one. Number two, I'm worried about what happens in the Middle East. If Donald Trump strikes Carg Island and threatens the bridges and the electricity and the desalination plants of Iran, which I think in any reasonable reading of what he said today, that was his threat. Oil prices are not going to stop at $500 a barrel. They're not. And your lifestyle's over with. The peaceful North American, not so much disease, convenience, have an affair with your neighbor, no one notices, have a cookout, send your kids to college, go home for some air conditioning, take a flight to Mexico, order some clothes, go shopping, just drive for miles just to pick up a screwdriver. That whole lifestyle's under threat. And I don't know what to tell you to do about it. My strategy here has been that I think Railtown gives us a chance to get a great rate of return. But we'll go over this news release today. If this is what we've been waiting for, this is not going to spark the stock going up. Luckily, I think this is the beginning of what we've been waiting for. And I hope some of the guys up there that have information can chime in today. But I want to re-emphasize my call from 25 cents is 10 to 15 to 20x. That's my call. In other words, I think it's going to $5, give or take. And if it goes over $5 with enough volume, I think it could go into the teens. Everything else depends on the magnitude of the news. So I do believe that the stock can get to $20 and $25, but that's my range. I have these big targets like $55, and I even threw out something, I forget what, when I got annoyed with that one guy, 240 or 250. I think it can go there. But I think those are much longer term, and those are tied to what information comes. So I'm not counting on, those big numbers, at least in the short run. You can't count on them. But I think, can you count on it giving you a 10 or 20x? Sure. But here's my problem. And I'm going to talk about it today. I tried to get some help from AI on it, and there's no useful help. Because the mechanisms are hidden. But even with good news, if there's not a dramatic if there's not something announced that re-rates the stock before August, the high frequency trading computers will, like mosquitoes in a tent that doesn't have netting, they'll just bite at it all summer. And that's what I'm afraid of. This won't protect us from that. Now, does that mean I think it's going to go below 25 cents? No. Does it mean that it can't go to the highs that it was before No, it doesn't mean that. I think it can go to 40, 50, 60, 70 cents, a dollar. But my visions of sugar plums happening with a TELUS announcement uh, uh, in the short run. I'm just talking about short run. I have to tell you, it's July 8th, and let me read the news that came out today. Railtown AI announces service-led commercialization strategy to accelerate AI adoption among Canadian SMEs, small and medium enterprises. And I have it on pretty good authority. There's about 1 million of those. Company engages a marketing firm, WSI, to execute national go-to-market strategy while continuing to invest in Canada's growing AI developer ecosystem. Okay, so that headline is a little bit run on. But let me tell you what I think it means. They're going to go out and help small to medium-sized enterprises use AI. So let me give you the negative. That sounds slow, one customer at a time, committees. No wonder baseball didn't take off in Canada. How can you play Major League Baseball if you have this approach to everything? You know, there's a guy on first, guy on second, and your pitcher needs to, you know, circle back with a meeting and let's go back over what we're supposed to do and let's hire somebody to help us do that. You know, it's here's what I think this says. Well, let's come back to what I think it says, because I think it'll be easier to explain as we keep reading. Railtown AI Technologies, a Canadian-based AI developer tools and agentic orchestration company, today announced the launch of its service-led commercialization strategy. So that's a new initiative, and they're owning it, and that, I think that's good. What do I think's good about it? It means they're going to commercialization. It means they're starting to tell their story. They're putting out news. So it's a thawing of all that. Let's stick with the good right now. I'll get to the bad as we read. A long-term growth initiative. Didn't take very long to get to a negative. Now, does that ruin my enthusiasm for Railtown? No. But long-term is different than we're waiting for an announcement from TELUS. A long-term growth initiative designed to accelerate. So it's long-term, but it's designed to accelerate. Designed to accelerate artificial intelligence adoption among Canadian small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs. Well, that doesn't excite me. That means Railtown is what I have always said LangChain was: customer by customer by customer by customer. On top of that, apparently in Canada and worldwide, the adoption of AI is going very slowly. And you can't blame it. One, hallucinations. Two, the extremely high risk nature of spending your budget a la Uber in 4 months. The other thing I just in what is the word, kiboshing, you know, chatting, talking, just talking with other people is part of the risk of adoption for companies. They want to know there's redundancy. So if an agent erases something, or if a data center goes down, it's like with Bitcoin or any crypto, you want to know it's backed up somewhere. And I'm not enough of an engineer to know if that's all solved, but that is something that the hyperscalers offer. And I'm not sure newer entrants into the game do. And in that sense, I'm not sure that Railtown is purely a sovereignty play in the sense of move your data to a new data center to get away from the hyperscalers. Because yes, there is the risk of the US Cloud Act, but there's also the safety of knowing that everything's backed up. And that's something I haven't been able to process before I came on today. It's just something I'm pointing out. It says here they're going to expand recurring software revenue through the deployment of the company's proprietary AI technologies. That's fantastic. So that means they're entering the commercialization phase, and recurring revenues are either about to commence or maybe they already have commenced. That's good. That's good. But they don't sound massive. They don't sound massive. As part of this initiative, Railtown AI has engaged WSI, a global digital marketing and AI consulting network, to develop and execute the company's national go-to-market strategy. Very positive. They're going to market. They're going to market. But remember, something like 12% of Canadian companies have adopted AI. And there's a reason for that. So this marketing is also at its core educating and getting it comfortable, getting the audience comfortable. How do I hear that? Time. That's how I hear that. Including market positioning, demand generation, digital marketing, thought leadership, and customer acquisition initiatives. Wow, man. That sounds great, man. Man, it's all, I hate, it's just a bunch of words. Okay, now here comes going back up to the sub-headline. This says Railtown AI has budgeted a minimum investment of $500,000 for the rest of the year to fund this program, and that amount may increase if there's success. Now, what I think they're doing, remember, is their software is self-learning. It's battle hardened, battle tested, and it's 3 pieces of software. It's Conductor, Rail Engine, and Rail Tracks. They are going to increase the users of at least one of those tools, leading to the use of the others. But it's not to make money per se. It's to lead to revenue generation, but they want developers to start using their platform so that the platform grows its abilities. Look, I'm not an engineer, but apparently what happens if you are going to set up an app on Apple, or you're going to create a tool that uses Amazon's pre-built SDKs, or you're going to build something for the Microsoft system using their SDKs. Now, the thing is, it has to be ADKs, software development kits, and these are agent development kits or AI development kits or whatever. It's AI. Well, if you're a company or if you're a startup that's going to build a new offering based on somebody's ADK, they give you that ADK for free. That's your kit to build it with. That's if you use that kit to build, a new travel app, it integrates into whichever system, Amazon or Microsoft, that you took the kit from. And so part of what Railtown's trying to do is to get developers using their kits, but also adding to the kits. I run out of vocabulary. Skills and operations that aren't currently there, building the moat even greater. Where they're going to make their money is when those companies, the developers work for companies, then use Conductor to interface, and then you lose my understanding of it 100%. But the key that they're trying to get is people using rail tracks, building it up. But it's then that interface with the orchestration layer, Conductor and Rail Engine, is where they make the money. Money is made by managing data and usage of data, not by creating an agent or using an ADK to create a robot. It's not a robot, but in a data sense, it is a robot, an agent. Creating it doesn't make money. So I think this 500,000 is to create, to improve their offerings, but also create demand by allowing people to use their ADK, which leads to demand for Conductor and Rail Engine. And if that didn't make sense, it's because I don't know what I'm talking about. All right, management believes that Canadian SME market represents one of the country's largest near-term. So now they're saying near-term. Up there they said long-term. Down here they're saying near-term. So all is not lost. Near-term opportunities for AI adoption. SMEs account for approximately 98% 0.2% of all Canadian enterprises. Very interesting. And I think there's something like 1.1 million of them. Yet fewer than 12% have adopted AI into their day-to-day workflows. While awareness of AI continues to grow, many organizations lack the internal expertise, and that's for sure, needed to identify practical AI opportunities. In other words, more than just asking a question of chatbot, or to develop custom solutions, or to integrate AI into their operations. Now that makes perfect sense. And that's probably the way, the transition from the IBM mainframe model to the distributed PC model took, I don't know, it took 15, 20 years to fully happen. And then the model of going from having all your data, like I remember my Microsoft email that I had forever had all this data. It's all gone now in my computer. Or I remember one of the reasons I stopped using it, I lost it all, Evernote, even Dropbox. Data was in my computer, and then it all shifted to cloud. And it took a long transition period, but now there's very few people that keep their data on servers like Hillary Clinton's server in her bathroom at her private home that had national security emails on it, that if my father had done that, he would have been fired and gone to prison, yet he vociferously supported her. It was an entire violation of national securities law. But hey, she's a woman. The future is female. She's the first woman that ever had a chance to run for president and win. She got cheated. She's the greatest. So why are we going to pursue her for violating the law? We're not, because she's great. But had she waited to run for office, maybe 7 years later, most of that data would be up in the cloud anyway. She wouldn't need a server. And the government would still cover for her because everything's run by the CIA and the Zionists, and they just say, well, that, she didn't do anything wrong, but Donald Trump's a pig. And that's the media message. And, so, but the point is, she had a server. You don't need servers anymore unless you're really sophisticated. So what's happening now is that people are going to move from the traditional software-based, the SDK systems of cloud storage to ADK data center. And that's where I frankly get lost. What's the difference between a cloud that stores things in a sort of a CPU software basis versus a data center that uses GPUs and QPUs and does it all in AI? I can't explain it to you, but that transition is happening, however you want to explain it. But the adoption rate is slow, and that scares me. When I hear the adoption rate is 12%, and it's small, medium-sized businesses you're going after in Canada, and they're not adopting quickly, again, I got to caution you. That sounds like time to me, boy. Take your time. Take your time. I told you that story, so I won't bore you with it. Management believes the Canadian SME market represents one of the country's largest near-term opportunities, near-term, for AI adoption. SMEs account for approximately 98.2% of all Canadian enterprises, yet fewer than 12% have adopted AI into their day-to-day workflows. While awareness of AI continues to grow, many organizations lack the internal expertise needed to identify practical AI opportunities, develop custom solutions, and integrate AI into their operations. Just like the shift from the mainframe to the desktop, from the desktop to the laptop, from the laptop to the iPad and the phone, from the servers at home and memory on your computer to the cloud, and now from whatever the old cloud was to the new data center is, whatever that shift is, it all involves education, and it all involves getting human beings to adopt it. That sounds like time. Apparently, the critical things to adoption when companies adopt new technology, cost, that makes sense. And Railtown can bring down the cost of whatever you're doing. Security, and Railtown can provide security of your data, security of your privacy. I mean, if you're a high frequency stock trader crushing stocks by selling stock that doesn't exist and you want to keep it secret, Railtown can help you. And the key one I learned today is redundancy. That whole idea that if that data center suddenly lost your data, it's stored somewhere else. And that's something that's a confidence factor the hyperscalers have with companies. Railtown AI's commercialization strategy addresses this opportunity by leading with AI consulting, which is good because you're going to earn money doing it, but you're going to consult, you're going to recommend AI. But again, it's time. It's not that funnel that I've believed is coming. They're going to address this opportunity by leading with solution architecture and leading with custom AI application development time. Through these engagements, the company works alongside customers to identify business challenges, design practical AI solutions, and deploy intelligent applications and AI agents that deliver measurable business outcomes. Time. These consulting engagements also create opportunities to deploy, and this is critical, Railtown AI's proprietary technology stack. Critical, because once it's installed, it makes revenue continuously for a long time, including its conductor platform, which I think is the main jewel here, as the operational foundation supporting customer solutions. Management believes this approach creates a scalable pathway to growing recurring software revenue while establishing long-term customer relationships built on trust and measurable business value. It's all good. Consulting takes time. Beyond customer implementation, Railtown AI continues to expand deployment opportunities for its Conductor platform through strategic AI infrastructure partnerships. Beyond what we just described, beyond all that, Railtown AI continues to expand deployment opportunities for its Conductor platform through strategic AI infrastructure partnerships. Beyond this boring, time-consuming consulting, hiring a marketing firm process, going after the SMEs in Canada, can you imagine how long it'll take? To get a decision, at all of these SMEs. This news release, beyond the headline, buried 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 paragraphs down, now comes to the point that Railtown AI continues to expand deployment opportunities for its Conductor platform through strategic AI infrastructure partnerships. What does that mean to me? Now, I admit we have no proof of this. That means to me that Buzz Hive digital thing that Dr. Tom Cork constantly highlights. It means to me TELUS. It means to me perhaps Uniserv and other data centers. That to me is the big upside for Railtown. But why is it on the 6th paragraph? I don't know. Conductor enables organizations to deploy AI applications and intelligent agents across multiple AI data centers and cloud environments through a unified deployment experience, giving customers the flexibility to choose regional data centers, sovereign data centers, or public data centers. Now, what the word says, what the sentence says, is giving organizations enabling organizations to deploy AI applications and intelligent agents across multiple AI data centers and cloud environments through a unified deployment experience, Conductor, giving customers the flexibility to choose regional, sovereign, or public cloud infrastructure that best aligns with their operational security and regulatory requirements. And that's not one decision. They can decide that per agent, per operation, per all of their data sets. This is the strength of Railtown. This is the strength of Railtown. Railtown is agnostic to what data center you use. And in fact, it can help you choose and direct your business wherever is the cheapest, safest, and most productive. But what does that mean? I think it means that their data center revenue model is different than what I've been led to believe, or in fairness, let's say, different in what I've interpreted from what I have been told. I don't want to blame anybody. My point is, it may not be that once TELUS comes out and says we're pulling the switch, that Railtown's business leaps because of this funnel of business that I've said so many times. It may more accurately be described that customers are going to use Railtown and Conductor, and there'll be alternatives, as we've acknowledged. But I still think Railtown is unique and best in class. That's my belief. But I can't really find, there's just not a lot of evidence out there. So when you query, when you ask questions, it doesn't come back that way. So what's the good news about that? The good news is that Railtown is not going to be relying on one data center for its revenue. That's good news, by the way. When bankers or private equity look at a company and they see that their revenue comes from one source or one customer, that's a risk. So I think the way I read this is Railtown, and this is no different than what we've come to. It's just a different framing. I think Railtown's going to have relationships with many data centers. Many data centers. I still think Railtown's technology is going to be critical. So the business that goes through those data centers using Conductor is going to make money for Railtown. I just don't think it's all going to come from one data center or one cluster. Maybe we've known that, but that's how I'm reading this. And right now I'm not reading it because my eyes adored you. All right, now my eyes are getting it. These consulting engagements also create opportunities to deploy Railtown AI's proprietary technology stack, that's great, including its Conductor platform, as the operational foundation. That's really great. That's critical. Supporting customer solutions. But what bugs me, if you're counting on going through 1 million Canadian SMEs who are yet to adapt AI, and it's the Canadian culture, you're talking time, my friends. You are talking time. Management believes this approach creates a scalable pathway. All right, it's scalable. But when? How quickly? When does it light my fire? When do you pass over that moment where everyone says, you know, those tattoos, that's kind of weird. Sailors get tattoos. Hey, that's kind of weird. You see all those tattoos that some of the weightlifters get. That's kind of funny. Angela Jolie got a tattoo. So all of a sudden, everybody has a tattoo. Young, old, misguided. Everybody has a tattoo. When does that happen that, hey, you know, that sailor has AI and those weightlifters use AI and Angela Jolie used AI to store the blood from one of her boyfriends. And now everybody's using AI. When does that tipping point come? When does the Malcolm Gladwell point occur? And I'm glad it scales. But if you're going after Canadian companies, you're not waiting for the cows to come home. you're waiting on complete unknowables. Another committee meeting, another group of the girls, and a couple of men in there to fit in. But we got a committee, and then we got to promote somebody. We've got to have a celebration for her promotion. Let's have an award agreement. Let's think about it. Why don't we have a bake sale? Why don't we come back and we'll have our Friday meeting, and then we'll go over to Denise's for a cookout, and then let's run it by our let's look at it in a couple of months. Guys, this is not exciting to me. Going after Canadian SMEs is not exciting to me. But I'm showing my bias, aren't I? Management believes this approach creates a scalable pathway to growing recurring software revenue while establishing long-term customer relationships built on trust and measurable business value. That's all important. And I do agree that as they go through this consultative process, they will slowly at first, and then self-reinforcingly, and then more rapidly, and then all at once transform the Canadian market. I'm not impressed with speed. Two words I'd put in the same sentence are not Canada and speed. I wouldn't put those in the same sentence. Beyond customer implementation, Railtown AI continues to expand deployment opportunities for its conductor. Did I already read this? Yeah, I must have. Let's read it again. Deployment opportunities for its conductor platform through strategic AI infrastructure partnerships. That's data centers, for example. Conductor enables organizations to deploy AI applications and intelligent agents across multiple AI data centers and cloud environments through a unified deployment experience, giving customers the flexibility to choose regional, sovereign, or public cloud infrastructure that best aligns with their operational, security, and regulatory requirements. I think that's great. And the funnel is conductor. It's a big position. I think it's a powerful position. And I think it makes Railtown one among the crowd. But it could have, it's almost certain to have competition. It's a huge market. Management believes this infrastructure agnostic, data center agnostic approach positions Conductor as a valuable software layer for organizations seeking enterprise-grade AI deployment without being locked into a single infrastructure provider. That's a powerful sentence. Management believes this infrastructure agnostic approach positions Conductor as a valuable software layer for organizations seeking enterprise-grade AI deployment without being locked into a single infrastructure provider. Fantastic. I don't know why that isn't in the title, but it isn't. A lot of the tools out there that solve this problem in a similar way, you've got to be Amazon, you've got to be Microsoft, you got to be Google. This allows a customer like the Saskatchewan women's knitting company to use whatever platform they want to use. And then if they want to share the cost with the Saskatchewan men's skeet shooting company, Railtown can handle it all. You don't have to be tied into Amazon or Microsoft or one data center. So it's a powerful statement. But man, educating everybody, education takes forever. Management believes this infrastructure agnostic approach, data center agnostic, Amazon, Microsoft agnostic approach positions Conductor as a valuable software layer for organizations seeking enterprise-grade AI deployment without being locked into a single hyperscaler. I use that word. This approach aligns with Railtown's broader strategy of supporting secure, sovereign, and flexible AI deployments through partnerships with Canadian infrastructure providers. Data centers, that's plural. That's not just TELUS. So that's good. I think that means we're going to hear about, I don't know when, but we're going to hear about more than just TELUS. So then, quote, our view is that successful AI adoption begins with solving business problems, not selling software, said Corey Brandolini, Chief Executive Officer of Railtown. That makes sense. You got to solve somebody's problem. Most Canadian small and medium enterprises recognize that AI will reshape how businesses operate. I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about that at all. He does say most, so that's a low bar. But I don't think that if you go down to your local church or your local barbershop or your local plumbing company or your local snow shoveling company, they have any clue what AI can do. That's just my opinion. Most Canadian SMEs recognize that AI will reshape how businesses operate, but they need experienced partners who can help them identify where AI creates value and how to implement it successfully. Yes, sir. And that's a powerful place for Railtown. By leading with consulting and implementation services, we become a trusted advisor throughout the customer's AI journey while creating natural opportunities to deploy our proprietary software platforms as their AI capabilities mature. Brilliant. It's a great strategy. It takes 3 more years. That's how I read it. Brandolini continued, quote, Canadian SMEs represent approximately 98.2% of all enterprises in Canada, yet fewer than 12% have adopted AI into their daily operations. We believe this represents one of the largest untapped AI opportunities in Canada. Our consulting and development practice is being built specifically to help organizations bridge that gap while creating long-term recurring software relationships as customers continue to expand their AI capabilities, unquote. I think that's a powerful statement about what Railtown is and is going to become. I just don't think it's going to happen in July. Which is fair enough. Now that's a different thing than talking about what the stock price does. So don't panic. To support execution of this strategy, WSI will work closely with Railtown, and that makes sense. They've only got 2 or 3 guys there, so it makes sense they put that out. That I'm fine with that. WSI will work closely with Railtown to build a comprehensive marketing engine. Oh God, it's just word salad. Focused on customer acquisition, brand awareness, and demand generation. Swell. The company believes WSI's global expertise, what does that matter if they're in Canada, in digital marketing and AI consulting will strengthen. AI consulting just started. Will strengthen Railtown AI's ability to communicate its differentiated value proposition and accelerate commercialization. So that's good. Look, I'm all for it. They're outsourcing to a group that does this professionally, and we can look it up. It's a really legitimate group, and it can accelerate commercialization. That's good. But is it going to happen with some, thunderclap in July? No. In parallel with Railtown's commercial growth strategy, Railtown AI continues to invest in Canada's AI developer ecosystem through university partnerships, developer education, hackathons, community events, and open developer initiatives. Okay. Again, that goes back to they're building particularly their rail tracks. They're building the moat system. They're building up that ADK, that tool set that's given to a company or given to a startup to build an entire new framework on. So I'm not going to say you don't understand it. I'm going to say that maybe I haven't fully understood what that meant. That's very powerful. So where I might be dismissive of university, developer education, hackathons, and all that, where is the revenue? It's the opposite. It's building the product to be the best product and creating demand for that product. That's not where the revenue is. The revenue is getting the adoption of conductor and rail engine with rail tracks to manage the data, to manage the information inside of companies. That's where the money is. It's not in creating the agents. That's not where the money is. In parallel with I read that. The company has hosted multiple in-person and virtual hackathons, providing developers with mentorship and access to its Rail Tracks Agent Development Kit, ADK, very good. And it's Rail Tracks. It's named right here, Rail Tracks Agent Development Kit, enabling participants to design and build intelligent AI agents using Railtown's technologies. These grassroots initiatives have contributed to more than 35,000 downloads of Rail Tracks ADK. So 35,000 downloads, not really generating revenue, but all generating improvements in the Rail Tracks ADK. To my skeptical ears, we're about, it was February, I think, when I pointed out to you at one of the conferences, I think it was Dr. Kaur that highlighted it, but at one of their, I don't know, hackathons, 11,000 or 10,000, 11,000 downloads happened in about a week. or maybe it was 2 weeks. Well, here we are, I don't know, 4 months later, 5 months later, and 35,000 sounds great. But I don't know, it's not viral. It's not viral. But certainly 11 going to 35, that's the right direction. And who knows when that viral connection, maybe it's hiring this marketing group. So this expands awareness of Railtown's technology within the developer community while helping cultivate the next generation of AI developers, entrepreneurs, and technology innovators. Management believes that fostering a strong developer ecosystem complements the company's enterprise commercialization strategy by increasing long-term platform familiarity, encouraging innovation, and creating future opportunities for platform adoption. Yeah, makes sense. But it's time. Quote, commercial success in AI requires more than building great technology. It requires building an ecosystem, unquote, added Brandolini. Quote, while our consulting practice helps organizations adopt AI today, or will it be tomorrow, or could it be next year, or why don't we wait till the children graduate, eh? It is Canada. Our investments in developers, students, universities, and startup communities help build the next generation of innovators who will shape tomorrow's AI economy. We believe these parallel investments strengthen Railtown AI's long-term competitive position and support sustainable shareholder value. It's not rapid, guys. It's not the funnel that I thought. Here's WSI. You can go look it up, but there's their website. WSI. Engineering 150,000 businesses to embrace digital while staying architecturally human. Wah, 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 wah. Whatever that means. And of course, their sales pitch, just to show they're in tune with the modern world. It's a chick and a guy that's not particularly Caucasian looking. You know, they know how to market. I don't know. I'm not all that impressed with that news announcement. All right, let's go through the prices at 7:30. And we'll go through your comments. I'm not negative. I'm just, I don't know. If they don't have something coming in July, the stock, I think the stock will go 30, 40, 50 cents. But then you got to get through August. And the bots, the machines will just churn. It's just the nature of it. But the good news is I do think, ladies and gentlemen, that we are on the verge of an ending of the quiet period. And I think that's critical here. All right, the markets were down because we're going to war. We're not just going to war with Iran. we're going to go to war with Russia, Iran, and if anybody else wants to join in, we're going down. And we're going to do it on behalf of Benjamin Netanyahu and the banks. So the man who told us he would avoid endless wars, he's going to go down in history launching World War III. And guys, if you think it's not going to go nuclear, you're dreaming. Railtown closed at 25.5, which is great. I think it's 10x, 15x from here. But I just think to get to the 20, 25, 30x could be third or fourth quarter. And if their only avenue to revenue is to educate Canadian small and medium-sized businesses, I think it's time to make Canada our 51st state. All right, Energy Vault is up 4 cents, 3.59. GDC is up at 154.98. But remember, they did a 250 for one split. Nixie's down, of course, after all the high Palula at 139. Next trip is 205. I want to talk about that a bit, if I remember. Finger motion closed down 3.5 cents. It closed down 0.0345 at 34.05. I don't know how much longer you're going to wait. You can still buy more than one share of Railtown for one share of Finger. But even if Railtown doesn't go up from here over the next several weeks, which I don't think is going to be the case. I think there's going to be more coming. And I think the information that comes from now on will be presented in a way that the regulators want it to be. They had to re-announce all those MOUs that were vague, so you can read between the lines. I think there's going to be a lot of good information coming out for Railtown over the next weeks and months. Does it make the stock go to 25 in July? No. And August will be slow. Could it make it go to 25 in the third, fourth quarter? Sure, but that's not my call. My call now is that we're going to see $5 to the teen numbers maybe by the third quarter. I still think it could go that higher number, but I want to see evidence of for lack of a better term, I want to see a symbol clap of understanding in the investment circle of what Railtown is. This ain't going to cut it. Can I say something, Lieutenant? Yeah, what is it, Callahan? Your mouthwash ain't cutting it. So I just want to remind you, when Railtown was $1.15, I'm a blanking idiot. I just want you to remember that. All right, I'm going to go through your comments. Yesterday, I didn't mean to disappear, but I think I had one of the greatest gifts on the way back from the doctors, I stopped at this place, this watering hole we used to all go to after work. And of course, it's completely different people, but it's pretty much the same place. But I watched Novak Djokovic play Felix Alaasim. Anyway, FAA. What an amazing match. What an amazing match. I thought I was going to have a heart attack. But it didn't end. I don't think I got home until 6:37. So it was amazing. But that's why I didn't come on yesterday. Today, I've been trying to absorb this news and talk to some people about it. I think it's a very robust news announcement. I think it gives us an indication that the part of the quiet period is thawing. I think it gives some really good information in the heart of it that's going to lead, in my interpretation, to data center and infrastructure partnerships. I just don't see where there's that one turn the switch event. Doesn't mean it's not going to happen. I just don't see it. Not in that announcement. Not in that announcement. But, there'll be more announcements to come. Let's go to your comments and see what you were saying. CJ Yukon. Hey, William and RT crew. Hey, CJ Yukon. Pete, the Greek. Upa. Umpa, 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 pa. Umpa, 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 pa. Fast Eddie, how do, Mr. Bill? How do to you too? User, hey, Jim. Hello, William and all. Hi, user. CJ Yukon, 130,000. I think it's 150,000 from 23 million. Hold my beer. There's a tear in my beer. Contrary Berry. I picked up 40,000. Wow. Contrary Berry. Well, I don't want to leave you. Contrary Berry, I think you and Starla, I think you guys are going to have a great experience. Because the number one thing is you don't have the weight the rest of us do. So when you hear me today talking, it's not in the context, from, I don't know what you paid, 26 cents, 25 cents. I think you're going to get 10x like this. I think you're going to get 10 to 15x, possibly by August. But it also might be September/October. But I don't think you're going to lose money. I think the awareness is going to come now that it's broken. I think the awareness is going to come frequently. And I think it's going to be more specific, which is great. But for people that I've told that I think what we're waiting on is the TELUS switch. I'm not saying a TELUS switch won't turn on. I guess I'm just questioning how that's going to happen. Will there be this giant flood of revenue right away, or is it going to take this consulting process, or both? Some will come right away and the rest will come more slowly. But that's only part of the question. The other part of the question is, when do the analysts and the public facing analysts to you and me, or the analysts that just do it for their own book, for their own investment teams, when do they start projecting revenue? And I don't see anything in this press release that answers that question for me. But it could be soon. It could be soon. I do not think that this press release is going to be the last thing we hear. I really don't. I think you're going to start hearing, I don't know about this week, but I think you're going to start hearing information from Railtown. I don't know how long it's going to happen, but I think once the dam breaks, things, and that's what I think happened today, I think you're going to start seeing more and more information. So, contrary Barry, I don't think you should have waited. I don't think it's going down. The stock acted brilliantly today. When I first saw that news, I thought, oh my gosh, they're going to try to hit it hard, but they couldn't. They didn't. Let's look what happened up in Canada before I go too far. But here in the United States, the volume is 71,690, and it closed at 0.255, up a couple of percent. Almost, up 0.0047, up 1.88%. So the close yesterday was 0.2503, but the low today, they didn't get it back down to the close. So I think behind the scenes, today's press release is starting something. That's what I think. Now, up in Canada, Railtown closed down a penny at 37 cents, down 2.63, 136,455 shares. Of course, we had that news announcement I just read, and no other filings. I'm surprised that was down a bit and we were up. Maybe that's because the loonie is down. I don't know. I take this news announcement as a very lawyerly thing. Lawyers like to build files of information. They, when they're trapping you in your statements, let's say you owe money to Sears, they just start a file and they keep adding to it. And they add letters to it, notices to it. That's what I take this announcement as. It's the beginning of the attorneys representing Railtown starting a file. This is our first public news in a while. And I think it's going to be layered in with, frankly, I read it to you. Well, I'll read it to you again, just so I don't make it up. Beyond customer implementation, which is what this announcement was, Railtown AI continues to expand deployment opportunities for its conductor platform through strategic AI infrastructure partnerships, plural, data centers, plural, AI infrastructure, data centers, plural. So I think we're going to hear more, and it's going to get very exciting. I think, contrary, Barry, you're going to be really happy you bought the stock right now. And yeah, I'm kind of asking for some time to think about it, but we are almost to the middle of July, and August is vacation time. So it makes me feel like I might have to start moving my, higher targets into the third quarter, which we're in, I guess. I don't know, Barry. I think you're going to be really happy you bought it, though. Jack Hamilton, good evening, Sir William. Good evening. Justin Babish. I like paragraph 7, starts with, quote, beyond customer implementation, conductor and AI infrastructure platforms. Yes, Justin, you highlighted exactly what I saw too. I agree with you, and I'm not taking credit for what you see. I'm congratulating you for it. I think you're right. I think you're right. I think there was a lot in, let me state it slightly differently. This press release, to me, will now allow the company to start talking about this stuff, and it sets the predicate for further announcements. Just like I'm telling you, lawyers build their cases brick by brick, and this is the first brick. Justin Babish, the press is totally good. I agree. They are doing more than only tell us Microsoft wasn't built in a day. Yes, that's how I read it. It's more than tell us. And remember, Justin, I still emphasize, because of Dr. Tom Core's likes, I think there's something going on with Hive, Bell Canada, Hive Digital, Hive Buzz Digital. That's a Canadian data center cluster. It's Paraguay and it's Sweden, and it's big. And if this is just, Justin, it's just my confusion. But if the conductor, let's just call it conductor instead of Railtown, the conductor platform becomes the integral part or the interface on those data centers, they don't need WSI. They're just going to get the business. So I think what this press release does is it's talking about sort of and it says, I'm using the word in the press release, a grassroots marketing system to go get revenue. And it's great. It's still great because there's 2 or 3 ways you get that revenue. But I don't think it says they're not going to get the data center alignment revenue. It just didn't emphasize it. So maybe that's what we're waiting for next. Justin Babish, maybe RT didn't hire a shitty but a successful marketing agency. Well, yes, I think it's a very good marketing agency. When you look at it, I'll try to read a couple of things. I think it's very good, actually. I made a little fun of it because I guess that's what I do sometimes. But We are the world's largest and most experienced digital marketing agency network. That sounds fantastic. With Yamaha, they had a 65% surge in conversion rates. Amazing. Over 30 years of global experience, support, and stability applied to your digital marketing strategy. I agree with you, Justin. I think they hired a great team. And what's their choice? This is a much better strategy than buying a sales force. They have a bunch of customer stories here. Let's look what AI resources say. Free AI resources, learn more about artificial intelligence and why it's an important part of your digital marketing strategy. They give a bunch of articles. There's no white men, though. I guess white men just don't have a future. There's no future in being a white straight male. Customer stories, resources. Let's see customer stories, client portfolio, award winning. Yeah, they've got American Express pops out here. Doris Gentry for mayor. Very hard to read. They're very small. It looks like dozens, if not more, customer stories. And they're experts. Julio Cesar Vieira dos Santos, Clínica da Mama owner. So he's giving his approval. Anyway, I agree with you, Justin. I think it looks like a great company they hired, and I bet they get great results. And as you know, as we have to remind ourselves, the prize is really big. The target is really big. So to go from 12% in Canada even to 15 or 20%, if it all goes to Railtown, that can be meaningful revenues. And once they have those revenues, it's high margin and it sticks. And so it is exciting. I think you're right, Justin. Julius Quiam, so my dream of 30 cents isn't coming true. No, I don't think that. I think it's going to go to 30, 40, 50 cents. What was your dream this week? The week's not over. I wouldn't be surprised if there's more news coming. I'm not promising that. But I wouldn't be surprised if there isn't more news coming. So your 30 cents might happen today. I'll tell you the way the stock behaved, Julius, and that's what's hard to understand. Stocks don't always trade based on news. And the way it traded today, it actually looks like it's going to go up. I wonder what the chart looks like. Let me look. I guess what I take out of it, though, Julius, I don't think there's going to be a TELUS announcement that suddenly changed it. I think it might be a different announcement. Yeah. I actually think if you look at the chart, I think your 30 cents might be the exact number where it goes. Right here. It's been coming down. It's snapped back. it hit the 200-day or the 50-day, sorry, whatever this one is, moving average, pulled back to the 10-day, whatever it is. And it's bouncing. That's normal. When it breaks through here, that's about 33 cents. That's where it's headed. It's going to 32, 33 cents. So I think you could have it. This isn't a news announcement, and we're going to have to wait another 6 months. I think this, of course, I could be wrong, but I think this is a news announcement starting the release of news announcements. Volstoy King says afternoon. Justin Babish, also like how they mentioned being network provider agnostic. Justin, you're very smart. That's the strongest and probably the most monetizable aspect of Railtown. They can go into any customer and say, we can help you. And you don't have to move from Amazon. You don't have to move from Oracle. You don't have to move from Fortran. You don't have to move from, Swahili. You can stay. We can handle it all. And I think you're right. So that Justin says also like how they mentioned being network provider agnostic, and that they can communicate across networks, customers' data from cloud to data center. Powerful, Justin. You nailed it, in my opinion. That's a big part of that announcement. And this is a dense sort of all comprehensive announcement, but I think it's a predicate for further announcements. It's kind of thing they can refer to. And I think it allows, I might be overreading it, but I think it's a very lawyerly piece as well. So it establishes after a couple of days that the company can start talking more along all those lines with investors. So I think it's a great press release. Zizu. Hello, William. Hi, Zizu. You guys can read this guy, Robbie Cooper. I'm sure he's a real human being. Why buy these? Robbie says, why buy those? It's one stock. It's not many stocks. Oh, the two? I put Total Metals. I see. So why buy Railtown or why buy Total Metals when you can buy NVIDIA? NVIDIA is not going to double on you, my friend. In a short period of time. Thank you for. What's your idea on NVIDIA? Everybody here should buy NVIDIA at 203. Where were you when it was, I don't know, $70? Ward Richardson, Justin Babish, I agree. WSI, here's Ward Richardson. Justin Babish, WSI has a strategic alliance with, wow. See, Ward does his homework. WSI has a strategic alliance with Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Adobe with massive pipelines. That's powerful right there. That's powerful right there. So my initial read that this is going to take time might be offset by the fact that WSI can go right into their pipelines and ramp up right away. And so that's good. That is good news. And we'll find out. HD Myco. Hi, William. So does this Railtown press release officially end the quiet period? Thanks. I feel like it does end the quiet period, but what I can't answer for you, because I don't know, is to the extent, I mean, let me use examples that I make up. Let's say they have disclosures to make on TELUS. Let's say they have disclosures to make on Hive Digital. Let's say they have a disclosure to make on Uniserv. And let's say they have a disclosure to make with Alice's digital data center emporium out of the Northwest Territories. I'm not sure it ends those specific see that, what word do you use? Those specific quiet periods. It's like using the word love in the English language. If you've ever fallen in love with an Iranian girl, in Farsi, love means a lot of, when you say I love you, it has a lot of different ways of expressing it. And I guess that's true in English too. We just say I love you, but you can say it to your dog, or you can say it to your mother, or you can say it to a friend, but it's not the same meaning as saying it to a lover in the throes of attachment. But it's the same words. So quiet period, I think this does end sort of the blanket. They're not talking about anything. But I do not think it ends that if a group of investors, or if institutional investors, or if people close to the company know specifically what's going on with TELUS, or what's going on with Hive, or what's going on maybe with government funding for, that's one other area I really think might be happening. Dr. Tom Core, that digital company that was part of the amalgamation, those, what, almost 200 companies, maybe they're going to get government funding. And maybe that also has a quiet period around it. So, yes, I think it ends the blanket, we're not going to talk to nobody period. But I don't think it ends specific news blackouts. And to the extent that those same people all know, in other words, if you're a banker or somebody close to the company, or a provider of services to TELUS that has to get involved in the negotiations, like an attorney or an auditing firm, you have to sign an NDA or a non-disclosure agreement, or I don't imagine it would be a non-compete. It might be a confidentiality agreement, but it's going to say you can't trade the stock. It's going to define you under securities laws as not being able to trade it until the news is made public. So in that sense, I don't think it lifts. It's frustrating. English doesn't have a separate word for I love you, mother, versus I love you, my lover. It doesn't have a different word for those different quiet period things. So yeah, I think it breaks the blanket quiet period. I think it begins the thaw, but I think that on each specific situation that Railtown might be involved in, each one of those has its own, for lack of a better word, quiet period. And until those are released sequentially, if they ever are, there'll be a prohibit. In other words, if I don't know, Fidelity Advisors knows that TELUS has signed an agreement with Railtown, that Railtown is going to operate as the consultant for any enterprises that go through the Rimouski data center for the rest of the year. I made that up. It's totally made up out of my rather limited imagination. That Fidelity Group would not be able to buy stock right now based on their knowledge of that contract. They could only buy it after probably something like 48 hours or maybe a few days, depending on their internal rules, after that announcement were made. So, yeah, so that's a half-assed answer. Yes, I think it is the end of the blanket quiet period, but I think there's a rolling binding of non-public material information that's still out there on specific situations that is going to preclude what you're really asking. Is it going to allow the buying from institutions? Is it going to allow research to come out from in my example I just made up, from a Fidelity? And I don't think we're there yet. I think it's going to be news release by news release. But I think this is the start. That's my read. My belief is the warrants last week, this week is the start of news coming out that's going to shine a light on what Railtown's doing. And I think it's going to be very exciting, very exciting. You can tell I had wished today's news had been something like, the Department of the Navy signed up Railtown for all of its drones or something like that. Justin Babish, if WSI gets $500,000 to prove their value in market expansion and exposure, and based on results, they're very motivated to excel and expand their contract and not to get cut. Yes. I'm not sure that's 100% what that news release means. Let me go back to the sentence. But I agree with you. Look, I think they picked a great team. They couldn't do it themselves. So this is leveraging their sales efforts. It'll also be digital. It'll be AI. So it's a great test of the whole theory that AI can bring. Let me see where it says 500,000. course, I can't see it right away. Guess I have to read the whole thing. There it is. Railtown has budgeted a minimum investment of $500,000 for the balance of the calendar 2026 year to fund this program, which may increase depending on success. So they're funding a program. Let's go back up there. So Railtown has announced the launch of Railtown service-led commercialization strategy, a long-term growth initiative, which kind of contradicts down here that it's a near-term opportunity, but hey, a long-term growth initiative designed to accelerate artificial intelligence adoption among Canadian small and medium-sized companies, while expanding recurring software revenue through the deployment of the company's proprietary AI technologies. So it's going to lead to revenue, and probably right away. And I love Ward's point that they already got embedded in these large pipelines. I didn't know that till he put that up there. As just part of this initiative, Railtown has engaged WSI. So it doesn't say they're paying all of this money to WSI. Maybe it's a commission-based agreement or something. So they've engaged WSI, a global digital marketing and AI consulting network, to deploy and execute the company's national go-to-market strategy, which I think is great. I don't know what it means, Justin. Maybe they'll put out, blast emails or blast text messages, or, at the next Canadian national hockey match, they'll put out pucks that all say Railtown on them. I don't know. Maybe it's the national hockey puck strategy, including market positioning, demand generation, digital marketing, thought leadership, and customer acquisition initiatives. I mean, it's very good. Justin Babish, here's $500,000 to help me earn $5 million. Succeed and we'll expand with you as a marketing partner. Well, I don't. Number one, I don't think they're giving the full $500,000 to WSI. I think it's more collaborative. And number two, I don't think this $500,000 is going to lead to $5 million. It'll probably lead ultimately. It'll be hard to measure, but I think ultimately it'll lead to much more than $5 million in recurring revenue. But I get your point, Justin. I think this is a top-notch company that they signed up with. And they probably did it very carefully. And, Corey's done this before. Marwan has. And I have a feeling this is going to lead to excellent results. Justin Babish, we're not spending $500 we're not Groupon, right? We're not spending $500,000 to deliver coupons to people's front door, hoping they order a pizza from us. Hey, if you put a coupon out there now, I would order one. Exactly, Justin. I think this is a much bigger thing than that, particularly with what Ward just said. Donna M., good evening, everyone. Justin Babish, today's press release didn't take anything away from what we've been learning up to this point, only adds to it. I'm still as bullish as I was before today. I am too. What you're hearing me concerned about is I'm trying to remember how I framed it for July. And I don't remember what I said, but I do remember saying that I'm waiting for TELUS to pull a switch. I still think that's going to happen, but I'm not sure if you have to go company to company to company, if I'm correct that that's going to be, go from 0 to 60 in a couple of weeks. I think it'll go to 0 and steadily not the odometer, the speedometer will increase steadily. I think it's great. Justin, don't get me wrong. I'm just thinking about August. That's all I'm thinking about. And I'm also thinking about the high frequency stock manipulation guys. If you talk to Wall Street, if you talk to companies, if you talk to attorneys, they won't even admit that exists. We know it exists. So I just hope that, and I believe that there's going to be a lot more news between now and August. That's what I believe. I wouldn't be surprised if how many weeks are there left? 3, 4 weeks till August? No, 3 weeks, right? 4 weeks? Is July a long month? I bet there's 3, 4, 5 pieces of announcements, but before everybody takes their vacation. I'm very bullish, Justin. I don't think people realize how powerful the machinery that goes against us is. And what I see here is an announcement that doesn't specifically talk about revenue, doesn't specifically put a timeline on when things are going to gear up. So to a computer, it's just more reason to sell stock that doesn't exist. But we're getting very near the end of this. I think this is meaty, dense. There's a lot in this press release. And I think I guess, Justin, what I'm trying to describe, it's a foundational press release that allows the company now to put out other press releases without having to go over each of these points again. And I agree with you. I'm very bullish on Railtown. I still think it's going to $25 a share. I just don't know that it's happening in I'm just emphasizing, I don't think it's happening in July or August or maybe even in September. I think what's going to happen in July is an attempt to get through the highs of the stock in the United States, 70 cents. And I think it could go into $1, $2, $2.50, $3 range. That's fantastic. That is absolutely fantastic. That's 10, 12, even 15 times your money. And I'm not saying you should sell there either. So don't misinterpret me. I know I'm not negative. I'm just a little tired, a little worn out. I'm thinking about other things, other phone calls I have to make. And yeah, I'm not negative, Justin, at all. And I didn't mean to come across that way. I really didn't. But all by itself, this news announcement isn't going to scare the sell side computers. That's all I guess I'm Acknowledging. Giuseppe, good evening, William and RT. Giuseppe, what I've been thinking about today, and I hope to be wrong, is why spend marketing dollars for individual SMEs? I think it's a good question, Giuseppe. And that would be a question I would ask. I think it's a misinterpretation of the press release, but I only come to that because I've spoken to some people, other people invested in the company. I don't think the 500,000 is purely to invest in marketing to SMEs. I think what it's about is getting developers to use rail tracks as an ADK. And the more developers use rail tracks as an ADK, an AI development kit, an agent development kit, an AI agentic development kit, instead of a software development kit, the more it builds the capabilities of the ADK, the more it makes that ADK valuable. So they're not just spending the money on, like Justin said, on coupons for pizza. They're actually building the oven. They're hooking in the water so it can come from the Adirondacks in New York. They're learning the correct flour to use so you get a New York style pizza instead of a Chicago style pizza. In other words, it's an investment in the ADK as much as it is marketing. I don't think most of this is marketing. I think this is, well, you're right. I mean, that's probably how it's going to hit. That's how it's going to hit the auditing, the accounting line. But I think it's doing more than just putting, advertising out. It's literally what I just said. It's about getting developers to help rail tracks build itself into an ever better. It's already great, I think. Build itself into an ever better ADK. They're not throwing this money away. But I like your question. In another way, Giuseppe. Why spend money on SMEs? And I think if you take your question that that's all they're doing, that would cause me to wonder what the heck. But I think Railtown has 3, 4, 5 different areas of revenue, depending on how you count it. One is going to be these, as they put in here, this grassroots campaign for small and medium-sized companies. And they were always going to do that. They were always going to do that. That was always going to be a source of revenue. And that's fine. But if that's all they were doing, that's not that exciting to me. But it's not all they're doing. It's not all they're doing. It says right here, they call that customer implementation, maybe. Beyond customer implementation, let's call that one source of revenue, the SMEs and this marketing effort. Beyond customer implementation, Railtown AI continues to expand deployment opportunities for its conductor platform through strategic AI infrastructure partnerships. I read that data centers or data center clusters, and it's right in the press release. It's just buried 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th paragraph. But it's there. And I think that's the much more dramatic, powerful statement here. And it's here. So the company now, Giuseppe, and going back to HD's question, the company now can talk about that in general. It may not have been able to before, but now because they've put it in a press release, they can talk about it. I think that's where your massive revenue growth comes from. And again, Giuseppe, it's not immediate growth that's going to matter, although that matters. It's going to be what analysts can project growth to be. And so taken together, this customer implementation strategy, Ward told me earlier today, there's 1.1 million small and medium-sized enterprises in Canada. Well, that's a good market to target. It's not the biggest market in the world. It's not going to take Railtown into unicorn phase unless they get all of it, and they won't. They won't get all of it. But it's big enough that an analyst can look at it and say, well, it's 12% now. If it's going to grow to 60% adoption over the next 3 to 4 years, and if Railtown can get a quarter of it, well, that's 10% of that market overall. And I have no idea what the revenue is. An analyst would. Well, that's a leg of the stool that's going to be very positive for Railtown. But another leg of the stool, and maybe it's, a bigger leg, or it's 2 legs of the stool, is this data center cluster deals and partnerships. Just think that through, Giuseppe. If they're going to go out as a consultant, they're not going out door to door. They're going to be doing it digitally through this service and probably with AI. But more importantly, they might be doing it digitally through the data centers and the government agencies too. So, and the network that Ward just came out with. So my first read is that's slow. It may not be slow at all. It may be quite rapid initially. That's yet to be seen. That's yet to be seen. But how does it work? You get, just to read this again, Railtown continues to expand deployment opportunities for its conductor platform through strategic AI infrastructure partnerships, plural. Let's call those AI infrastructure partnerships data center clusters. Which ones do we think that we've heard about? I'm not saying they're happening, but we're pretty confident about. They're adjacent too. One is TELUS, Rimouski, and Kamloops. That's 2 data center clusters. Another one seems to be BuzzHive Digital, whatever Tom Core always likes. That might even be Bell Canada. But it seems to be Sweden and Paraguay. So that's possibly 4 data center clusters. And then there's Uniserv. So if you're continuing to expand deployment opportunities for the conductor platform through strategic AI infrastructure partnerships, what would that be? Any business that we, through our consulting arm, send to that data center, we get a split of the revenue. Now, it may be that Wiser gets a split of that, not Wiser, WSI gets a split of that revenue too. We don't have the details of that contract, but that's okay. There'll be revenue sharing to go around. Another way it could be, let's look at this way, Giuseppe. If Rail Tracks is the ADK, and that's what's hooking the fish, and then the fish gloms down on the hook, the reeling in might be conductor and rail engine, you know? So that rail engine and conductor may be they're the orchestration, the real-time ingestion, and the governance layer. That may be where the payments come. That's the money. So my point is, any business that conductor directs to TELUS on a nanosecond basis, on a batch basis, why don't you go spend that compute power at TELUS and do the rest of the compute power over at whatever, Microsoft. Railtown gets a piece of all that. If those are those agreements, then you've got Railtown set up not just from a slow, which is how I read this, a slow AI adoption among small and medium-sized enterprises in Canada. You've also got the adoption led by the data centers themselves and the telecoms themselves directing their customers. And this whatever you want to call it, consultative aspect of Railtown can be fulfilled without phone calls. It can be fulfilled via the computers. So this can be a far more rapid process than my first reaction. But that's just part of it. The rest of it is the data center clusters themselves, whoever's running it, if they choose conductor, and if they send customers through to conductor, I'm not explaining it well. It's an evolving process, so that if you're a corporation that uses TELUS, and they're saying move your business to Rimouski, like I used to say, I thought it all happened all at once. That may or may not happen because of these three things: cost, security, and redundancy. Whatever goes through the decision making at that corporation. But if they choose, and odds are TELUS is going to recommend they do, if they sign up for conductor and the rest, conductor may say, why don't you take this part of your decision and go do it over at Rimouski, and you can leave the rest over at Microsoft for now. And as they get comfortable, more and more will come over. But I don't want to focus on all that mechanics. What I want to focus on is there's going to be revenue splitting. Every time conductor directs, orchestrates, and guides business to data center partners that Railtown signed up with, there's going to be a revenue split. And it says here, deployment opportunities, plural, for its conductor platform with strategic AI infrastructure partnerships, plural. So it's a big market, is all I'm saying. It's all I'm saying. I think this is focused on giving us the foundational information, and it's focused on giving us this strategy of the grassroots, company by company getting business, which is a great business. That's what Lane Chains has done. But I think it's one source of revenue. I think a second source is being that critical layer at these data center clusters. They may not be the only layer, but once they're embedded in the companies and the companies choose them and they build the confidence in Railtown. And by the way, they may call Railtown's consultancy arm. Railtown doesn't have the manpower or the woman power to answer all these questions right away. So I think probably it was Justin, but maybe this was a key alignment to sign up so that Railtown can bear the weight of rapidly scaling customer acceptance of their product. That might be what this is about too. Railtown can scale. So anyway, that would be the second source of income. I think a third source of income is the AIP network and the cross-platform selling. I think that's a third source of income. And they just announced this company, Wiser, joined AIP partnerships. I pay attention to that one. A fourth source of income could be that roll-up strategy, if they intend to still pursue it. Railtown owns AIP Partners, and if that roll-up strategy happens over a period of time, that's all cash flow. I would say a fifth source of revenue could be any security, and that might include quantum, I don't know, any other contracts they sign outside of data centers, although I suppose everything runs through data centers, doesn't it? But anyway, any contract they sign that companies want their data and their internal system orchestrated or monitored real time as the vertical software set is either upgraded or swapped out for ADK based systems. I don't know. I wish I could explain it to you like Ward or Eric or Neil, but I can't. I can just do the best I can. Donna M., that's two announcements within days of each other. Good point. I find that encouraging. I'm with Dustin. I'm not discouraged at all. I'm not discouraged either, although I can tell I came across that way with people suggesting that. I'm just worried, and it takes a worried man to sing a worried song. I'm worried now, but I won't be worried long. Donna, it just boils down to what can those machines do, the high frequency trading machines do in July and August. That's all that's going through my mind. I haven't changed my view of the upside to Railtown, the quality of Railtown, the sheer massiveness of Railtown. I haven't changed my mind about that one bit. I'm just worried about the next 3 weeks. That's all. That's all. And August, I've already told you, nothing happens in August. But I actually like your point, Donna. 2 pieces of news in what, 5 days, basically, 5 trading days, or maybe 6. Well, I don't know. There's holidays in there, so whatever. A week, within a week of trading days. Yeah, I think you're right. It's a sign of something. I think there's more to come. I don't know when. I wouldn't. What's today? Wednesday? Let me look. We should have that. We should have that Form 7 tonight or tomorrow night. Not tonight. We might get that Form 7 tomorrow. I would guarantee. I would. The last one came out June 9th, and the one prior to that came out May 9th. So I would guess July 9th makes sense, except there was a holiday involved. But I'll go with July 9th. So we might get that. But yeah, I would say next week, Donna. Maybe you'll get 1 or 2 news pieces. Giuseppe. In other words, does this invalidate the TELUS revenue spigot thesis? Spigot. Turning the... No, I don't think so. I just don't... There's 2 parts to that thesis, Giuseppe. I think that the adoption of AI in Canada, the swapping from hyperscalers simply for sovereignty may be a more deliberate process than all at once. But that's different than saying that it won't happen. So I guess that part of it, I guess I would adjust. That the idea that they could turn on a fire hose and the business would come out and be visible over the next 2 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and ramp up. I think it's still possible, but I think it's not the likely path. And by the way, it can happen over August too. It's just everybody will be on vacation. But no, I think what's exciting for Railtown is it doesn't have to be all TELUS. So it shifts the story from just TELUS to what sounds like to me is that there's going to be arrangements. They're already embedded in Microsoft. You know that. So maybe now I'm making this up. Nobody told me this. But maybe there'll be an arrangement with Microsoft. I think it just walks like a duck that there's an arrangement with Hive, Buzz, Digital, whatever that thing is. I think there's going to be an arrangement with TELUS. Uniserve for sure. I don't know. There could be others. I've never been given any other names. I haven't been given. I mean, I'm surmising those other names, the Bell and the Buzz and the Microsoft, just from information we've had, the TELUS from the press release and the Uniserv from the press release. No, I'm not saying it won't happen. I'm not saying that TELUS won't come out in July and say we're doing a deal with Railtown. I'm not saying that. I'm just not sure it's going to be a fire hose. It just may be a strong flow and a steady flow, which is good. But I think it could be that Railtown has agreements with many data centers, which is a beautiful place to be in. Instead of just being one, it's spread out across a dozen or 20. I think it's great. And then Conductor, which is agnostic, they can direct their customer to wherever the customer wants to go. But if it's to a data center that has a Railtown agreement, we're making money. So I think it's a much bigger story, actually, than just TELUS. I told you I'm thinking through this. I probably needed a day or two. I feel like I'm thinking through it in real time. Pat M, hi gang, hi Pat. Justin Babish, remember the interview we watched the other day with Ruffalo? Yes. The interviewer asked directly, "What company should we invest in?" And he totally kept quiet about Railtown because something's cooking. I think that's a very logical conclusion. Doesn't mean it's correct, but I happen to agree with you. I also think that when Buzz Hive Digital, whatever that the Hive stock announcement, they didn't mention the orchestration layer. They mentioned Cohere. They mentioned this and that. They didn't mention it. So I share that with you, Justin. Ward Richardson says, Justin. Chestnut. Good evening, RT crew. William, I picked. Good for you. By the way, for anyone here, if I had money, I'd put it all in Railtown right now. I'd probably, if I had enough money, if I could buy 50,000 shares of Railtown, I might buy 30,000 Railtown and 20,000 Total Metals, because if Total Metals doubles or triples or does what it could in July and in September, I might have a chance to take that profit and buy more Railtown, but also it'll give me something to focus on while I wait on Railtown. But guys, don't get me wrong. I'm not being, I can tell I'm coming across flat. I'm sorry about that. I'm processing this news. It's not the most exciting piece of news I've ever read, but it's got a lot in it. And it's asking us to do projections. And what I want to get to be clear, I can't wait until there's news that says Railtown just signed a revenue sharing agreement with Meghan Markle, and we're getting a warehouse full of strawberry jam and her next 2 years shipment of As Ever wine, and she's specifically agreed to not do any podcasts using our name or something. But anyway, I'd love to see a specific, just something specific. Railtown has announced that it is the preferred orchestration layer of the Canadian National Guard, the Canadian Mounties. On every horse, there's going to be a halter, and it's going to have AI installed in it. So if the horse wants to go back to the barn, the AI is going to gently nudge the horse to continue to stay on the trail, to continue to go after bad guys, whatever, something specific. And in return for that, Railtown is going to get 100,000 bags of oats worth $225,000. I don't know. You get my point. I would like to see an announcement that says Railtown just signed up this deal and it's going to earn this revenue, and the deal is for X period of time, and the size of the market is thus. I'd love to see an announcement like that. And this wasn't that. But it was a good announcement. I think it's a great announcement, in fact. Ward Richardson, there you go. That is I think Ward's correct. This announcement is the foundation that Railtown is ready to scale. I think that's exactly right. Just because I can't figure out how it's going to occur doesn't mean it's not going to occur. And it's not, by the way, Railtown's future that's going to go to the big, big numbers is not door by door, small and medium Canadian companies. I think it's the data center clusters. I think it's security. I think they have the best platform. They may not have the only one. I think that's almost certainly true. Sovereignty may not. Look, I just learned this term today called redundancy. And if redundancy is foremost in a CEO's mind, she's going to put that ahead of sovereignty until she's comfortable. So people make different decisions. So sovereignty may not be the only decision. I think it's going to be a big part of it. So going back to what Donna, I think, is picking up, I still have the same excitement for Railtown over the next 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. I'm just trying to remember what I said for July and August, September. I think I always warn you about August. But I don't think I said it's going to 25 in July. I don't think it's going to 25 in July. But could it go to 5 in July? Sure. It could go higher than that in July. Absolutely. I don't think this is the news piece that does it. Neil Gondik. Hi, everyone. Rail's setting the table quite nicely. Just a matter of time. And the 35,000 downloads was impressive. Yes, it is. 35,000 is impressive. And like, for example, Neil, what's that other one that went from 0? to the, was it ChatGPT or was it a different one? Was it Linux? Llama? Something just grew to the stratosphere. And the thing is that that vertical move, you know, it could happen at 35,000 adoptions, or when that 35 doubles to 70, or when the 70 doubles to 140. We don't know when it picks that viral lift. We don't. I wish, there's one guy I wish I could have talked to longer today. But he couldn't talk to me very long on that right there, because I don't know how it works. I'm not a software engineer, but I think 35,000 is great. I don't know what it, see, I'm not a mathematician. So what did it start with before it went to 11,000 and now it's 35,000? That's a nice ramp. But it doesn't seem to be in the vertical stage yet. Lockup. The sooner we can move upward and RT can lock in some deals, the better off we'll be. And overinflated data centers for AI. Well, yeah, I go back and forth on that. Are data centers overinflated because are they overinflated? If you had built data centers 5 years ago, you'd say yes. But if you're scrambling to know that you have enough compute power or the ability to expand your compute power for the next 5, 10, 15 years of your business plan, I would argue that the data center is just part of your cost and revenue calculation. In other words, you may be arguing that the data centers right now are overbuilt, and maybe some of them are empty. I don't know. I see some of that. But if you're somebody that knows and believes, which I do, that AI is going to go agentic, so agents are going to be talking with agents and working with agents, which means the demand for compute is going to grow exponentially. And that's the theory. You're right. Maybe we go back to using handheld calculators and analog phones, and we'll go back to, you know, writing our own emails, which we probably should do. And we'll go back to hiring HR Block to doing our taxes. I don't know what example to give. You might be right. We're going back to what used to be. And we're going to just disgorge AI and flush it out. But if you accept that AI is here to stay and it is transformational, implied in that acceptance is that AI is going to go from being a chat box, and it's going to go from a human being interacting with AI and then another human being. It's going to ultimately go agent to agent, and it's just exponential growth. So if you're a corporate planner, if you're, I don't know, Elon Musk, you're going to go build your data center And you might even tell Texas it's going to be for automobiles. And then after it's built, you might convert it to robots. But the main thing on your mind is going to be to get it through the approval process, have it built, have the water and the power ready, so when you need it, it's ready to go. You're not going to take the risk of leaving it to the last minute. And the problem is everybody's thinking the same way, so the prices have gone up. But is it really going to be overpriced? I heard an example today that I cannot explain to you. I bet Ward could. But if you look strictly at these data centers and these stacks, and I'm going to tell it my way, and I'm not going to tell you who explained it to me. But if it costs a hyperscaler or a telecom, if it costs them, I don't know, $2.25 for a GPU. I don't even know how to tell you what unit. But let's just say $2.25 to rent a GPU. And they give it to or it just costs them that. And they rent it out to their customer at $1.75 a GPU. They're losing 50 cents. But where the orchestration layer comes in and where the whole business model comes in, that GPU can be rented out 100 times. Because at any one moment, it's not always in use. This is how I interpret my conversation. So it can be rented out at $1.75 to 100 people, and that's your profit. But that's also your orchestration layer and your conductor layer being used. So if that happens, lockup, the projected revenue models with agentic AI, the cost of the data center is just going to be a line item that's completely and quickly paid for. I don't know about how to understand the chips, because there's depreciation, which saves you on your taxes, but there's also obsolescence, which means you have to go buy another. I don't know how to calculate all that in. It's a brave new world, but I'm not sure the data centers are overpriced. I think there's a lot of people out there who are bullish on AI who would rather pay the cost right now to build the data center to know they have it, that they have the capacity, than to wait until data center prices go back down. But on the other hand, there is the theory of the circular financing and an ultimate crash in demand for data centers. My own question about that is, what if you looked at a data center like a computer, which is what it is, and in what is Moore's law? Every 18 months, you double the power and halve the price? I suppose that could happen too, but no, they're not spending this money because the financial models don't justify it. I do think there can be groupthink, and I do think private equity and Wall Street can get all enamored of an asset class and overprice it. So I'm not dismissing your thoughts. Let me translate my interpretation of what you're saying. It would be nice for Railtown to have strong revenue and growing revenue so that we can stop having to compare it to this broad idea of an AI trade. Hotel AV, TELUS is looking like a great buy at this level with a 12% dividend. Well, I think TELUS is a great buy if the new guy converts and focuses their revenue on AI. They can keep the dividend. If his attitude is like an accountant and he says, no, we can't afford the dividend, we have to cut back on AI, we have to cut back on data centers, then the stock's going to keep going down. But I happen to be with you, Hotel AV. I think TELUS, the new CEO, is going to go along with the Canadian emphasis on AI. I think he's going to get help from the government, and I think he is going to convert or move a lot of their revenue focus to AI generated high margin revenue, and I think he's going to keep the dividend. But that's the risk. The reason the dividend's so high is people are concerned he's going to sell divisions, cut back, and cut the dividend. But if it becomes clear he's not cutting the dividend, I think it's a great price. Let me just see if there's anything here I was going to show you. Otherwise, I won't bore you. I'm sorry that I came across flat today. Yeah, I'm not gonna show you those. I showed a bunch of Dr. Core's Hive and all that. It's 9 o'clock. Yeah, I think I'll stop there. I feel badly that people are saying that I'm discouraged. I'm not discouraged. I'm just flat. But I'm very excited. It sounds like I'll add the new numbers in, but it sounds like we're at 22,900,000 maybe. So we're nearly to 23 million. And as soon as we're there, we can go hire WSI and they can market for us and see if we can double it to 46 million. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. I hope we're not really at war. I hope Trump is just blowing off steam. Because if we are at war, we're going to have to start changing some of our strategies pretty quickly. But until then, I wish each of you a good night. And if you get up early tomorrow, or if you can take some time off, maybe it's not early, try to watch Djokovic play Sinner. I think it's going to be very tall order, but if Djokovic beats Sinner, it's going to be one of the greatest matches of all time. So anyway, peace.